In this video, I will go over my entire logo process, because I've made a couple of logos during my time as an illustrator, and I've learned a great deal. And when I say a couple of logos, I mean a bit more than a couple. Let's cue the intro. My logo process is usually the same for each project that I take on, and I will be breaking it down into 5 steps, whilst I create a commissioned line logo that you will get to see in the video. Alright, step number 1, the brief. When you start a logo, it's important to get a solid brief. This should include the most essential information and not just the subject or name of the company, but how the logo is going to be used and its purpose. For instance, is it meant to be used on small prints on apparel and retail? Or is the main target use of the logo within digital media? These things affect what's possible to do, such as the level of details and color. It might also be a good idea to show the clients different types of logos, just to get a feel for what they want stylistically. The main advice for this step is don't be afraid to ask a lot of questions, because usually they lead to better results for both parties. Step 2, the sketch. When the brief is sufficient enough, you can get started on the sketches. And depending on the budget of the project, this stage can either take up the majority of the project or it can be a pretty quick process. I do all my sketches in Adobe Photoshop with the default round brush. Here's my settings if anyone is interested. When I'm sketching, I like to look up reference images if it's a logo that should be depicting a certain object or animal. My go-to site for references is pexels.com, which is a free site consisting of images you can use commercially, as well as videos. Once the sketch or sketches are done, it's time to send them over to the client. But before we get to the third step, please make sure to subscribe, and whilst you're at it, like the video, it helps out a great deal. Step 3, the feedback. This can be very different between projects. Some clients have a hard time visualizing the sketches, and in these cases it can be good to include mockups to convey what the final logo might look like. As for the amount of sketches I send over to the client, it varies quite a lot. I refrain from offering too many options for the client to choose from, because that can sometimes be a mistake. Consider the selection you send over to the client and make sure that you send over sketches that you yourself consider viable options. Step 4, vectorization. When the sketch is approved, I jump into Adobe Illustrator and start vectorizing the logo. I basically just use the pen tool to trace over the sketch, but if it's a simplified logo with basic geometrical shapes, I use the geometrical shapes combined with the shape builder tool. For logos such as this one, I also use the shape builder tool to mask shadows and highlights to the outline of the logo. I sort of use it as a masking tool. I try and add as few anchor points as possible when I'm using the pen tool, because this helps me create flowing lines better. If you plan on creating logos in Adobe Illustrator, mastering the pen tool is a must. Step 5, mockups and file preparations. With the vector logo complete, it's time to send it over to the client for final approval. I always try and include some type of mockup of the logo. This is to get the client a fair chance to see the logo in use and make adjustments if needed. Hopefully the client approves it, and then it's time to send over the files. I usually make sure to include some social media applications, as well as PNGs of the logo, along with the Illustrator and EPS files. I also make sure to send over any other file types that the client needs. And once that is done, then my work is finished. This has been my breakdown of my entire logo process. I hope you found the video helpful or enjoyable to watch. If you did, please let me know in the comments below. Make sure to tune in next week to see the creation of my favorite illustration to this day. And if you haven't already, check out my previous video here on YouTube. That has been all from me. Thanks for watching.